This is the AI Assisted Organization podcast hosted by myself, Piers Aalok, my co-host and co-founder of Implement AI, Dr. Aalok Shukla. So we're actually together last week. We were in Istanbul.
Yes, that was great.
Makes a change. This is our virtual relationship. So we're in Istanbul. We met some of our team out there as well. We're based a bit further out, but it's kind of halfway, which is really interesting. And what's coming out of that is a firmed up plan for, and we intend to launch our AI agent platform, which is a sort of an agentic platform where it's going to be sort of a wrapper on all of our agents, abilities to string agents together. We give our agents lots of skills and capabilities, probably 250 different integrations. We're starting looking work on our sort of ISOs and SOCs. So we're kind of growing up now. We're going to have a platform end of March.
Exactly, yeah. And so the whole point is we've been talking about having businesses need an AI operating system for a while. So we're actually building that to help more businesses actually embrace that, because unless you've got the actual infrastructure within the business where you can actually connect in your different workflows and everything, you can't really integrate this in a great way. So we're really excited about that, like end of March. And then we've also got an announcement which will come up once we've confirmed some stuff, isn't it? End of March as well, Piers, isn't it? Right. So,
yeah. Got lots of announcements. And then what that platform lets us do, which is going to be a bit further out, but we're also working on it, is it's going to add a layer above it for resellers. So that's going to be quite important. We're developing something that a lot of our partners won't have to. And the beauty of our business is that we're building it based on actual experience, not building some AI agent, solution.
That's the real world business.
Yeah, exactly. Or in a vacuum. So it's real and it's built on a real experience. So that's all very exciting. So we're working very, very hard on that. I hate to mention it, but we're going to have to. Is DeepSeek. So there's been a lot of news, and if you look at my newsletter, I've got a newsletter. I sort of touched upon this at more of a high level. We've looked at the news last week, especially about DeepSeek and models and open source and the cost of it, and how much it costs to train these things. It misses the point. Okay, so it's all very interesting and about seeing all that competition, which is good. Competition's good. It means that the key thing is costs are going to come down. But what it misses the point, isn't it? Because what's missing the point is that as these things become more capable, which they are, you're now seeing OpenAI have launched O3 Mini, which they've actually made available on the free program. That's very, very good at coding, better than DeepSeek. But what it's missing is these are points on an exponential curve, right?
Exactly.
As you move up them, every point is exponential, not linear. It's going to seem like a massive difference in change to the last point. And Dario Amodei, I think I pronounced his name, CEO of Anthropic, he made this very clearly that, it's interesting, it's fascinating. Maybe they've trained it on, OpenAI's data, maybe not, who cares? But it's a point on a curve. What you're seeing over time is that as the models become more capable and cheaper, what happens is, and this is Jevons paradox, is you get more capability, more use cases, and you'll see more adoption, massive growth. So the steam engine, when the steam engine was invented, people thought, well, I've got a steam engine now. In terms of human labor and steam engines, you won't need that many engines because it basically multiplies human labor so you can get more done. What happens, of course, is because you can do more with these engines, there's more and more of them are built and put into production because you can actually scale up productivity. And that's what's going to happen in AI. It's the same thing.
Right. Exactly. So that if you just think about it, I'm sure everyone's been on a roller coaster at some theme park. I haven't been on it in a long time, but essentially you're going on that flat portion. So if you imagine 5 seconds of time along the flat portion, everything looks pretty much the same, just moving along. But once you start going down the, almost vertical portion where you're climbing and you're going there, 5 seconds of climbing there is very, very different, right? At each point you are much higher than you were before. And just like you said, DeepSeek is an example of making the processing and the capabilities of the AI much cheaper and more energy efficient, which actually provides a threshold shift, basically, because it means that some of the use cases that you couldn't use it for before become unlocked. And just like you said, if you use the analogy of the steam engine, right, or you're using an analogy of an electric motor, whatever you want to call it, right, that's going to be then connected into everything. So rather than just only the garage door can benefit from it, no, every door in the house could benefit from that, or everything like this. So the point is that the intelligence can become everywhere. And I think as we talked just before the call, we were talking about what people have to understand is this technology is improving very rapidly. But if you're stuck in the kind of flat portion of the theme park, the flat portion of the roller coaster, and you're not connected, you're not even on the roller coaster, you cannot benefit from these. And I was giving the analogy, it's almost like you've got a house, but you've got no pipes or connection to water, no pipes or connection to electricity. And then if the water quality keeps improving, you cannot benefit from that. If the electricity power and ability keeps benefiting from it, keeps improving, you cannot benefit from it because you don't have that infrastructure within your actual building or within your business. And that's where it comes to having different workflows which can benefit from it. So I think you should look at these DeepSeek and other things where they've been very clever in engineering to make things much more efficient, to use a lot less electricity, a lot less energy. It basically means that like it's a lot more available for more people, basically.
Yeah, I think you heard this phrase. And it was with Mark Andreessen or somebody said it. It's a Sputnik moment. So it's where if you don't have the GPUs allegedly, I think got some from somewhere. So they've had to be creative, and that's a good thing. So there's the old story of the US, NASA spent $1 million building a pen for astronauts because obviously ink doesn't really work or flow in space, and the Russians used a pencil. So it's a bit like that. Is that this is good news for anybody in business, but don't get lost in the noise and the media. Actually start thinking about, okay, well, what does it actually mean for my business, and how can I actually benefit from these changes and these developments as well? So that's the key thing. What you are going to see though is a response. So Anthropic, Google, OpenAI, and all the rest of them. They're not just going to sit on their hands. They're going to have to look at this and think, well, okay, if they can do that, if they can use our models to distill, and it's called distillation, to train their models, what are we going to do next? How do we become more, make our models perform better, make them more capable? How do we reduce the cost of training models? And do we open source things as well, or make things more available? So it's really, really exciting, actually.
For us, like for any business owner, it's fantastic because what's happening here basically is like the hundreds of billions that OpenAI spent to train things. DeepSeek, like you said, distilled it. They basically use that model as a teacher model, and they had the student model. So you're learning from the world's best, smartest AI, and then they can offer that for like next to nothing, essentially, with different things. So in the same way as more state-of-the-art models come out, that will become more widely available. So the ability to access exponentially expensive, state-of-the-art technology for everyone, because all the companies are competing with it, it's incredible, really, isn't it?
Also, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, well, it's a Chinese model. People aren't going to use it." And maybe downloading it. Your InfoSec policy might not allow that. But the beauty of open source is, and we're looking at doing this, not just DeepSeek, other models as well, is that you can deploy them on your own infrastructure, and you've got all the weights, they're completely open source, and you can use it in however you want to in your own sort of secure environment. So that's the interesting thing about open source. And hopefully, I think it's really important as well, generally, that these powerful models are open sourced over time. You may always have some sort of, maybe we'll see, some proprietary model. There's kind of the bleeding cutting edge, and the open source follow, which tends to be the case. What you see now, though, interestingly, is that open source is almost catching up by distilling the proprietary models. So it's interesting, isn't it? But it's good news.
Need for lots of different models, just like you've got like lots of different processors in like a mobile phone or a watch or a TV or a state-of-the-art laptop. It's just going to be like different versions of it, but according to what is the device or the opportunity you're trying to kind of empower. But exciting times.
And you're seeing, the bit of news kind of slightly tangential though, but you're seeing now that because of this, you're going to see this technology, going back to Jevon's paradox, this technology implemented more rapidly, because, and that's what we're going to talk about in the pod today, really, is the technology is still developing. And what that means is it opens up more and more use cases. Now, some use cases are about capability, and we'll talk about computer use, but some use cases are purely around cost. So if you imagine that the cost of virtual labor is coming down, right? And you're comparing it, often some of our customers do, you're comparing it to human labor. So you compare it to human labor maybe in the US, which is very expensive. You compare it, and it can compete with that quite easily. Then it comes down more. Then you're competing with, labor in maybe Europe, and it keeps coming down. And there comes a point, and everyone's been talking about in the UK about work ethics and, outsourcing to overseas countries where they've got low cost labor. But eventually, low cost labor, especially knowledge work, so remote workers, working at computers with a mouse and a keyboard. That, as this cost continues to come down, that competitive advantage also goes away. So it kind of makes remote working, outsourcing, BPOs go away.
I heard some stats where in some universities where there was like a lot of graduates were typically going to be business process outsourcing companies, almost like 33% of graduates were not placed. Like, so it's already changing things basically. But like, I think this is the whole point. Like, you can build your own back office, make it simple. If you've got, several shops, you've got several businesses, or even like one business, and you want to build like a back office team or a support team, or, a skill up sales team, you can have AI agents that will do that for you basically, right? It's like a, labor in a data force, in a data center essentially.
So let's, we're going to talk a bit about the new models and different modalities. But if you're new to Implement AI in our podcast, and we're sort of putting some more effort into this over the coming months. So we are basically a UK-based business. We're working to the US, UK, UAE, Ireland. We're kind of evolving and spreading out our sort of wings. We provide AI agents, so managed AI agent solutions. We've got a huge amount of demos and resource on our website. Go to implementai.io. And we have a AI Insider newsletter that comes out pretty soon after the podcast. We kind of distill our own podcast into some content as well. And if you want to talk about AI implementation in your business or any organization, public sector, third sector, private sector, reach out and have a conversation with us. Aalok, so let's talk about, DeepSeek's triggered the conversation about advancements. Let's talk about what actually has changed. Because it's not just models, is it? It's voice, it's the inference speeds, it's been able to deploy this stuff in your own.
You're boiling down. You're boiling down where like everywhere you could apply intelligence, you should potentially, because like, for example, let's give an example, right? Like we talk about return on data very often where like, if you're not capturing the data, if your agents aren't capturing, or you don't have like, voice recording or telephone recording things, you cannot benefit from those. But let's talk about some kind of concrete examples, right? So I was talking with one business, and then they sell to lots of different medical professionals, but within each practice, there's different medical professionals with different specialties or different things like this. And they were saying that like they want to be able to target those places better. I was explaining to them that like, look, what you can do is if you've got the name of that medical practice, you could have an AI agent which looks up that medical practice, looks up all the different practitioners, understands what specialties they're in. Then it could segment which products or new things or new technologies might be more interesting for them. And you could almost like give them a mini newsletter or mini emails targeting them in different ways. That's because you can apply that intelligence to personalize that information in a much better way. And then that gives you a much better advantage over some generic with like email, which has got all sorts of things which nobody cares about. In a different scenario with another business, we're looking at a scenario where they've actually put all of their data from like, how they manage some of their different customers into a system, and then you can query it and you can get some very interesting things where we were making it do particular types of audit on like what they've already got and what they're missing. And at the same time, it can help unlock, sales opportunities, but also unlock patterns. So the point here is that like, it's now viable to be able to like do this on everything. So if you could always just get a 15% better conversion rate on every single piece of communication you did, that compounds massively. Or say one of your team members is like doing a phone call with the business, and they can see a table straight away which says, we know these 9 points of data, but we're missing this 1 point. When does this contract end? From a competitor, for example, they could then ask that person while on the phone, by the way, when does this end, basically, right? And then you've then got that piece of data. So then when your sales manager is looking through it and seeing, okay, we've got 2 contracts with them, but they've got 3 contracts with someone else. How can we offer them 5 contracts in one, basically, right? So this is the concrete thing. Like if you've got everything being recorded, you've got everything being processed, and you've got intelligence being fed to you, you can make much better decisions, basically, right? I think that's that.
And also the cost is going down to use cases, but it's quite interesting that we have some agents that are real time. So
Yes.
if you imagine they're kind of real time, imagine you've got a team of people using the agent in real time. There's a cost to that, and we're going to come on and talk about different pricing models and sort of consumption as opposed to prices, cost per seat. But as these costs come down over time, it's going to become cheaper and cheaper to have these models literally, because it's not always competitive sometimes compared to, you've got people say in India doing similar things.
Yeah.
But it's getting to the point now where, say, DeepSeek, for example, if you use that in your own sort of environment, it's an order of magnitude cheaper. When you get to that point, you can run AI agents, doing what they're doing and burning tokens all day, 24/7.
Exactly.
So we're getting there. So talk about so the one that is kind of flying below the radar a bit, because it's still a bit clunky and people don't quite understand the significance of it, is computer use. So this is something that Anthropic launched kind of first, I think. And OpenAI have launched one now. You may have seen it. It's not available in the UK yet, annoyingly. But you may have seen where they ask an agent to go and book a flight or something. Off it goes and searches the web and does it. Well, that's
very powerful.
Added to the price of the tokens coming down is going to be very powerful, because that's going to be getting into full-time remote workers, isn't it?
Exactly. Basically, what it does is, like, just to make it really simple, the AI agent has access to a desktop, which could be a browser, or it could even be your own computer potentially. And then what it does, it takes a screenshot of that, and so it understands the environment, because it understands, like visual processing. And then on the left-hand side, let's say, for example, you said, okay, I want to sell items on eBay, and I want to find, underpriced items, from Facebook Marketplace, for example, right? Like, I saw an example of this. And then what it did was the agent was then opening up Facebook Marketplace and looking for different things. And then it was creating a spreadsheet, because it told it to create a spreadsheet, and it would show every time there was an item which it felt was mispriced, where it was cheaper than it thought it would be actually worth. It then actually put the link for the item, and it also put like why it's justified and what it thought its price would be. So straight away, what that's doing is it's almost like creating business opportunities or identifying different things. You could apply that principle for cars. You can apply that principle for anything, basically, isn't it? Right. So it's like finding arbitrage opportunities and searching things. And like, you would have thought it doesn't make economic sense to have a person like looking through, Facebook Marketplace or eBay or anything like this. But, you could have an AI agent which is kind of doing that continuously. So the point is, it takes the picture of the screen. It understands everything that's on that. It can then click anything. It can then extract that, put it into another spreadsheet. It could, complete a form or do something, and it could do multiple steps, and then it keeps going back to the same step. So I think this is incredibly powerful, because if you think about like updating any kind of system or record where there's no API, or you think about, like, for example, being able to like draft different documents or doing different things in different ways, it's the amount of things that you can do exponentially increases. And you're absolutely right. Basically, an AI agent can just become like a remote worker, which can do more and more things. And then every time a system needs to be updated or monitored, or even a camera, for example, imagine you got a camera feed. It's like, okay, spot within this camera feed anyone that's not wearing a hard helmet or any potential security or compliance issue. It would then be taking a screenshot of the video, and then it would then be analyzing it, seeing, is there anyone here with a compliance issue? Is there anyone here which could be a thing? Or is there anyone here I don't recognize? And then you've got that going on a regular basis. So computer use is just going to be so insanely powerful.
Yeah, so I think, again, I want anyone listening or watching this podcast to just stop for a moment, right? And imagine that an AI, very intelligent, becoming more intelligent all the time, PhD level now, some of them, the model you use, can now operate, and we talked about this before, but can operate a computer, move a mouse, use a keyboard, see a screen, understand the screen in real time, because they're multimodal. So just like if you take a picture of a room, ChatGPT can explain to you what kind of carpet it is and what the wallpaper looks like, or what color, what's going on in the room, even, and give you that kind of context. It can now look at the screen and understand it. So if you imagine that a lot of people have spent billions, and I mean billions, on robotic process automation, where they have a screen, they have an application, and they're programming, literally, click by click, movement by movement, a mouse.
Button by button, which part of the screen within, and then if they change
where the button is,
there, you're done, basically, because you have to reprogram it.
Yeah, exactly. So imagine that now, be the business process automation with intelligence, okay? So now, imagine how many remote jobs, I'm not talking about physical labor now, are basically people sitting on screens, taking information, clicking on something, typing, inputting data, getting a response or some application, and then responding to it either with a customer service, an email, or some other action.
Imagine like these mystery shoppers, for example, right? So like, let's say I've seen sometimes places like where they hire lots of people around the country where they'll do mystery shopping for different businesses. And obviously what they'll do then is they'll call the business or inquire with the business, and then they have to then keep a record of the communications they had with the business, like the call recording, the emails they get back, everything. Then they've got to fill out a form.
I'm getting to, though, but imagine all of that, globally, with computer use, as it becomes more functional and usable, can be automated.
Exactly.
Right?
So then,
not only that, hang on, not only that, the price of influence comes down. You can have these virtual digital workers or AI agents doing it 24/7, 365 days a year, and it costs him That's what we're talking about.
It's so profoundly powerful. And this is, and I'm going to come back to my point about the house without any plumbing or any wires. Right now, most businesses are basically a house with no plumbing, no pipes coming into the building, and no wires anywhere, basically. So they are insulated from the AI intelligence around them. They cannot actually benefit from it, basically. So you have to begin, your workflows have to become, not just digitized, but also with intelligence. You have to have start putting AI systems in place in your business and have a better way that you can actually benefit and upgrade these different workflows. And, that is so important.
Let me add another layer, because I think we want to roll now. So the other layer is that with your remote workers, you're paying per hour or per day, some kind of contract rate. Okay. With AI agents, and this is where we're going with our platform, there'll be a cost of access, but most of it is going to be consumption based. So
exactly.
SaaS, and we said it before on the podcast, SaaS, you pay per seat because you're paying for a human to have an account that they can be that remote worker, essentially, because the people are working at home, wherever they are, because you don't need to be in an office, do you? You're using a screen. That human is operating that SaaS application, which is a GUI and a database normally. So imagine now that the per seat cost goes away and all your labor costs, or your AI agent virtual labor costs, all of them become variable. You're only incurring a cost
when you use
value is being created, aren't you? Otherwise, if they're not creating value, you wouldn't have them doing what the hell it is they're doing.
It means you can scale up or scale down as you need to, basically, right? So she's like, if you want to have the equivalent of 50 salespeople during your peak month, you can.
I think about in most organizations, right? Apart you've got, X and buildings and your manufacturing, but most information economy organizations, what is the largest cost? And it's people, either people in the business or people externally. And you've got a fixed cost. It's the salary. It's the minimum contract rate, the day rate. Whereas now, all of that turns into variable costs. Exactly. And the point we're trying to get through in this podcast and in our business generally is if you look at all those different dimensions and put them all together, it's a fundamental change in how you resource your business and how you pay for it.
It's a digital workforce. The whole point is have a digital workforce. You've got your existing team. Right now, you're missing a whole new team. So that's how you can have a team of digital agents, which will then be able to work with you in different things. So you have to get your business ready for and onboarding a digital workforce. Otherwise, you're just missing a trick.
And then use cases. Let's go through some more. So obviously, we're spending more and more time now putting AI agents actually into production, becoming a lot easier, slicker, and faster with the platform. But let's go through a few more. So we're focusing on. And again, as we go through this, imagine the context we've just given and how that's going to evolve over time. So we're focusing on sales. We thought originally it may be about cost saving AI agents. It's not. It's actually about growth. Sales, customer success, and support.
Yeah, and there's also compliance, operations, procurement, many different areas where it kind of comes within there. But yeah, you've got if you just talk through a few examples. The sales portion of it, in terms of research, being able to do deep research on any person or any inquiry that comes into your business, who are they, what have they posted about, is their business announced anything recently? That would make you more relevant for them, or were they actually using a competitor or something like this? The more research you can do in that kind of regard, that can help your sales team or even the agent that's dealing with it. That's kind of one example. The other classic examples are customer reactivations. We do this all the time for clients where they want to contact previous candidates, previous customers, inactive prospects, whatever it is, either by voice calling them, messaging them, emailing them, whatever like that, during intelligent conversations to book meetings, book appointments in that kind of regard. Other ways in sales, putting together personalized materials. So again, the other thing would be having an agent which asks them questions, and then from that, it puts together a personalized report for that person by email or by WhatsApp. And then it helps them understand what their options are. With another business we've been talking about is they sell very complex and expensive equipment. And they want to have a use case where the agent is able to ask the person what they're trying to actually accomplish. And then it's able to then recommend for them a whole bill of materials and different products and different services, which that person could benefit from. And then it could also be restricted by brand or by concept. Again, that's extremely powerful because you've basically got your most knowledgeable salesperson who is able on demand to help someone 24/7. I mean, the number of times you go to a shop, right, and you're asking something, you're trying to get an answer, you can't get that. But you could have an ambient AI sales assistant available on every shelf. You could just press it and ask questions and be like, okay, I can see these Bose headphones. but how does it compare to the beats? It could then tell you based on what you've got in terms of information and everything like this. You could also say, typically people also buy this subwoofer as well or whatever like that. So you could have the upsell and cross-sell recommendations. That's just to give you an idea of like different areas that are opportunities within sales. But then you've also got agents which will always follow up. So imagine someone opts on a website and they put their email, their phone number and different details. It then calls them, it then emails them, it then follows them up basically, and it won't let them go. It'll be like, you inquired about this, how can I help you with that? And, going in that regard basically. So that's sales. Anything to add in that area, Piers, you reckon?
No, I think we can talk about the kind of voice capability, but it can apply it to all of it really. But I think voice is something that's kind of one of our centers of excellence, and our voice agents are very, very good. But people say they're the best they've heard. So by adding voice to any of these things, and we'll go through the other ones as well, it just changes the way you're interacting with your customers or prospects in sales case. But what it's changing actually, isn't it, is the data you're capturing.
Exactly. So let's look at the support basically, right? So support could be one of two ways. It could be support for your customers, or it could be support for your actual team members. So let's look at two scenarios. So one scenario, let's just say, for example, you've got like loads of people with vans. They're driving around the vans and they're doing different rounds and they're doing deliveries in different places. But then they've got some questions about like, what about this? Or are we authorized to park here? Or can we do this? Or what's the code for the fuel, savings card or whatever like this, for example. You can have an AI agent, which is a support agent for your team. They could call at any time or WhatsApp at any time, and it will give them the answers about what they require, basically. So then you've got 24/7, 365 support for your internal team members. Then, for example, let's say they're visiting a property, and let's say there's lots of details about that property, and they're not sure about, what's the access or what's the timings or who's the main person. They could, rather than having to look something up on a portal, they could ask the agent, which has been empowered and giving all the details internally, to give them that information in real time almost, basically. Then you've got the classic elements of support where it's like primary level support, finding out what the issue is, filling out a ticket for your human team members to deal with. And if it's like something which can be resolved, it can actually give the information, even guidance step by step of what to do to solve the problem to the customer. It can be multilingual. It can then also do it, like I said, in different time zones. It could even then also put together a list of recommendations for the person, which could be sent as a PDF or an email, along with information about your, aftercare plans or your other things and, your upsells and your cross sells, basically. So you can turn a support, which is kind of like a kind of cost center, into a sales center where you mix it with customer success in those regards. And, support can be email, WhatsApp, phone, and these agents have memory. So they remember everything that happened in all those different places based on like what the email is.
And that's quite important, isn't it? So again, it's kind of to appreciate that. So in our platform, whether you've engaged through WhatsApp, SMS, email, or voice, it's got perfect memory. So no matter how you've engaged with that organization, it'll remember what happened. So if you imagine the power of that in terms of that sort of omni-channel almost, and what you can then do with that data you've captured in terms of it's that unstructured data, but now having artificial intelligence, you can use it in clever ways to personalize your outreach or the support you're given, or the customer success, which is clearly just as important.
Give another example. So like I was talking with another business owner, and like one of our agents is a call analyst agent. So it listens to all the phone calls and it spots missed opportunities or, the value of the call. If there's a complaint, he was saying that like, the team that he works with, they're excellent, but sometimes he won't be told about complaints that are happening. So I explained how like the analyst could be configured where he could have access, and then he could see only the complaints because it detects like when there's an issue within it, and it could even summarize what that complaint was. So it means that like you're not in your business, but you could have like a feel of like what's going on. And then you could have an agent which then summarizes all of those, problems that happened this month. And then that becomes training or quality assurance or improvement, elements that can be within your business. So you basically got like a ongoing improvement analyst agent, basically, which is there, helping your team understand everything on a weekly basis. Like, these are the complaints, these are the issues. How can we resolve these in that kind of regard? So this is where it gets powerful, because like we always want someone to remember to do things, but the AI won't forget, basically, right? And that's where you've got to have these workflows.
And then the real power of this is what our platform will enable you to do is to string these together into teams. So our sales agent is becoming actually a sales team. So you can have one, or you can have many, and they can talk to each other. And they're going to have, imagine just like a human. That's what we approach it, really. And again, we did a webinar on this, which we'll mention in a minute, how you get access to it. And you have a team, and that person or that digital worker has capabilities or skills, as tools itself. They might actually use SaaS if it's got using computer use, and then it's access to data as well, which is why data is really quite important. But we did a webinar actually. Was it just we went to Istanbul, and we went through a lot of this. It was about a whole hour of like use
how
cases.
to build a digital workforce.
Yeah, exactly. The practicalities of it. So if you want to watch the webinar or listen to it, we'll put a link in our AI Insider newsletter.
Exactly. So yeah, so we talked about sales, we talked about success. Then you talk about like, for example, support and success. Then you can talk about like kind of like general operations. So, like auditing bits of information within the business, analyzing what there is, looking at all the documents which come in and like checking those documents for like, purchase orders or different things like this, or bills, even being able to like
reconciliations,
or even price analysis. Imagine, for example, you have an agent like, okay, like just look at all the bills that come in. And then what I want you to do is find me 3 alternatives for them. And then keep them on a spreadsheet, which can then be like potentially like a low, high, and middle price. Then that means like every time you're going through procurement or something, you could then be having different options which you could be seeing. You could have a different agent which is price monitoring certain items for your competitors, or even spotting, counterfeit versions of what you've got. You're only limited by your creativity, basically, right? But the point here is that like all the things that you want, or even research, like we've got Research Agent, which can look up people, find like companies that have announced this or done this or something about it, which you can then discover in that way. It'll research it and put that list together for you. So it's very important to be able to like leverage and benefit from these. But I think that's enough use cases. I think people should be able to find.
Yeah, we'll be here for hours. But the point here is we're not going to go use cases this podcast today. You can go and watch our webinar for lots of that. But the more trying to make the point here is those dimensions, is that you've got capability increasing. You're seeing that all the time. Voice is becoming better. I mean, it's indistinguishable now, really. It's actually better. I'm going to say it. It's actually better than a human on a phone. They don't flap, get flustered. They don't have moods. They don't forget anything. They access the perfect information almost.
Right. Like my mum just changed her car basically, and she was telling me the experience.
That. Your mum's like pimped her ride. Good grief.
So she was telling me that when she went to the garage, she was saying that like, the person at the front was like, I have to be careful. Like it was not, one of the people was not very responsive. Let's put it that way, basically, right? Like, and she was saying that to me, and I was saying that, well, some of these people maybe at like the front desk, maybe not very motivated or anything. But the thing is, you got people coming into space to buy a car or doing something. You want to make sure they have a great experience in different areas, isn't it? Right? Like so. An AI agent could definitely understand more about you, look up different things. It's very, there's lots of things you can do with that, basically, right?
Yeah. So imagine you've got all of that, and then you've got the capability, then you've got the access to the tools, got access to the data, and now the point with this podcast today, really, we're trying to get across is that don't get lost in all the news about DeepSeek and models, right? Just all you need to understand is that the capability is improving, and over time, the cost of doing this is going to decrease.
But the benefits are here now. So there are concrete use cases in your business right now. So the point is like, get those implemented and start working on those. And then as the technology improves, they'll just get better, basically, right? So it's imagine you've plugged in another
always steal my punchlines. so that was the point, is that, like you said before, isn't it? We said it in the webinar as well, is that what you need to understand is, right, this cycle of digital transformation or technology upgrades, you need to avoid it permanently. So what you have to do is build your business, that AI assisted organization, the name of our podcast, on top of this technology. So as that technology upgrades, as the cost goes down, your business, the potential to use better, cheaper, faster, safer labor goes up.
Imagine you added 10 team members to your business, right? And imagine without you doing anything, every 6 months, they just got better. Or every 3 months they got better, right? I don't think you got another 10 employees in your business.
Better, cheaper, faster, and safer.
And they can do more. And they can do more, basically, right? Like, and then that's the thing you got to put in place here, because this is not investing in a load of hardware which will become obsolete. People think that.
You're not buying tools anymore, are you? You're buying intelligence.
And people think that, I'll wait till it's better to then do it, but you've actually missed the trick, because the trick is not the technology. The trick is how your data is like leveraged and transformed by that. So there's a few things that need to be worked out, but the quicker you work them out, the quicker you get your benefits, basically, right? So the point is, you need to kind of get on this thing, because otherwise the problem is your competition will be able to like push much further ahead than you.
Yeah, well, we call this, and we're writing a new white paper on this, and lots of use cases in there. The AI OS. So you're basically getting. It's like, if
AI operating system.
I use Windows. I love on Mac. It's like getting Windows upgrades all the time. Just improving it. But this is going to be fundamental. So that's it for today. Well, about 35 minutes in. Been a lot of news, a lot of noise. Wanted to cut through some of that and just make sure that you're focused on what this really means for you and your business. So sign up for the AI Insider newsletter. We'll put a link in that to the webinar, which we did last week. It's about an hour, but it's really good. Lots of use cases in there. Look out for our various announcements on the launch of our platform, and also if you've got customers and you say you're in IT, you're MSP or technology consultant. Exactly. Yeah, we've got a partner program. It's an introducer program for the moment that will evolve over time. So sign up for our newsletter, watch the webinar, and please share this content. It's really important to get this out there. Anything to add, Aalok?
No, all good.
Right, so that's it for this week. This is the AI Assisted Organization podcast. We'll see you again in about 2 weeks. Don't forget, sign up, watch the webinar, and we'll see you soon.
See you then.